Now let's dive into glycemic index and glycemic load. What are they? You've probably heard that not all carbohydrates are the same. Some of them create much greater fluctuations in blood sugar levels than others. It's important to remember that processed foods and foods containing lots of sugar, quick carbohydrates, are rapidly absorbed into the blood and raise our blood glucose levels immediately. Consequently, a fast drop in blood sugar levels follows, causing irritability, difficulties in concentration, a sudden surge of tiredness, fogginess, and cravings for something sweet or another cup of coffee. And if your blood sugar goes too high, your brain signals your pancreas to secrete more insulin. Insulin brings your blood sugar back down, but primarily by converting the excess sugar to stored fat. Also, the greater the rate of increase in your blood sugar, the more chance that your body will release an excess amount of insulin and drive your blood sugar back down too quickly and too low. Don't forget that balanced blood sugar levels don't only depend on what you eat, but also how and when you eat and what you do after. You've probably seen the abbreviation GI, glycemic index, before on food packages. This tells you whether the carbohydrate in a particular food is a slow or fast type of carbohydrate. A GI over 70 is considered high, 50 to 69 is medium, and under 49 is a low one. Glycemic index values are determined experimentally by feeding human test subjects a fixed portion of the food after an overnight fast and subsequently extracting and measuring samples of the blood. The theory behind the glycemic index is simply to minimize insulin-related problems by identifying and avoiding foods that have the greatest effect on your blood sugar. What glycemic index doesn't do is indicate how large the proportion of the carbohydrate is and how it will affect your blood sugar levels. The deficiency has led nutritionists towards the development of the improved index, glycemic load, which is the GI multiplied with the regular helping portion of the particular food. This index enables you to obtain a much better idea of the actual impact on the blood sugar levels. Glycemic load over 20 is considered high, 11 to 19 is medium, and under 10 is a low one. You're eating a low glycemic diet if you don't get more than 20 GL points from one meal and not more than 100 points daily. Let's stop here for a moment though. I'm the kind of person who is happy when things can be calculated because it makes it so straightforward. However, instead of counting calories, you'd end up counting glycemic load points, and this can really drive you crazy and cause more problems mentally as well as mess with the convenience of your daily life. By any means, please don't think that you need to count those points to stay on a healthy low glycemic diet. No. It's enough if you stick to whole plant foods and move your body, but more on that later. I just wanted to make sure you aren't going to fixate on those glycemic load points. Besides, there is some questionability about following and calculating those points. There is still not enough data because GI values have so far only been determined for about 5% of the foods. The measurements vary. For example, baked potatoes have been tested with a GI as low as 56 and as high as 111. Also, the GI for the same fruit has been shown to increase as the fruit ripens. As glycemic load is derived from glycemic index value, it may vary to the same extent. The GI values are even affected by the preparation methods. Generally, any significant food processing, such as grinding or cooking, will elevate GI values for certain foods because it makes them quicker and easier to digest. The change is even seen with subtle alterations of preparation, such as boiling pasta for 15 minutes instead of 10 minutes. Food combining affects GI values as well. While the tests are done on individual foods, we consume those foods in combination with other foods that contain fiber, protein, or fat. The latter components will generally reduce the glycemic index of the meal. Also, the sequence in which the foods are eaten influence your blood sugar response. People also respond differently. People digest carbohydrates at different rates, so the glycemic response is individual and differs. Besides, reliance on glycemic load or glycemic index only can lead to weight gain, as foods that are higher in carbohydrates also tend to have higher glycemic load. People may lean too much towards high-fat foods. This way, however, you could easily end up over-consuming fats and therefore calories. And finally, despite the new and improved glycemic load, many food packages still only include the GI. To clarify the issue, I have examples of a few foods that have a dramatic difference between GL and GI. When based only on glycemic index levels, this casts a negative light on the foods that actually have nearly no impact on our blood sugar control and related weight risks. One such food is watermelon. Did you know that it has a high GI but a low GL? It has a GI of 72 but a GL of 4 for a regular 120 grams serving, which is rather low. Foods that have high water content, such as watermelon, cucumbers, apples, and so on, or fiber content, such as carrots, beetroots, won't create dramatic blood sugar fluctuations despite the high GI values. This applies when eaten in moderation, of course. The problem is when we eat foods with a higher GI or GL because these are the things we often overconsume. The most common examples are various grain-based foods, potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn, and so on. In order to avoid the dramatic hills and valleys in your blood sugar levels, eat plenty of foods with low GL and a moderate amount of those with medium GL. For example, a banana has a high glycemic load, but if you add it to a smoothie with leafy green vegetables, berries, seeds, and some plant-based milk, you'll have a nutritious meal as well as good blood sugar control.